Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. And there are a couple of announcements before we get started today. The first is that today I'm in London at MCM London Comic Con with my good friend Eddie. We'll be there today and tomorrow. Don't worry, I've pre-uploaded a video for tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be bumping shoulders with quite a few of you over the course of the next 2 days. The second announcement, and probably the more important one, is that there's a massive security vulnerability in World of Warships replay files. Until this gets fixed, and hopefully it's going to get fixed soon, because let's face it, if you want Wargaming to fix anything quickly, then do something that's going to cost them money and cause them bad PR, and this is going to do both. I highly recommend that you do not open any replay files other than your own until a fix for this security vulnerability has been published. The short version of exactly what this problem is that it's possible for somebody to insert instructions into a World of Warships replay file that when you run it, can instruct your computer to do absolutely anything. The example that I saw involved somebody inserting instructions into a World of Warships replay that when you ran the replay, it not only fired up World of Warships, it also issued instructions to the computer on which it was being run to flash up the web browser, go to YouTube and rickroll you. And if it can do that, it can run any executable on your computer, including, for example, instructing your PC to begin formatting its hard drive. So do not open any World of Warship replays that you don't trust until this problem's been fixed. In the meantime, and we'll talk more about this issue in a moment, but for now, this is Flyman 5. In the Ashitaka, the Tier 7 premium Japanese battleship, which is kind of like a nerfed version of the Yamagi at Tier 8. And while it has been said, usually by me, that you can't say Ashitaka without saying shit, because it's not a particularly good ship, despite all of its faults, it is armed with 10 long-range, pretty accurate, and reasonably hard-hitting 410mm guns. Yep, Flyman has clicked his left mouse button once so far in this game, and he's already done nearly 40,000 damage and completely obliterated that extremely unfortunate Mogami. But was this a fluke? Well, possibly. Actually, Jingles, I think you're going to find that in order to salvo fire your main battery, you have to double-click your left mouse. Jingles? Yes, thank you for your contribution. Your opinion is noted. Yeah, the Ashitaka has bad armour even by the standards of a Tier 7 Japanese battleship. It has laughably bad AA, but it does have those 10 410mm guns, which means that second only to the French Lion, the Ashitaka has the heaviest hitting broadside of any Tier 7 battleship in the game. At least for now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is a short clip. But you can see why Flyman 5 was anxious to send it in. That's one hell of a way to start a battle. Moving on to today's main event. This, in an all Tier 10 domination battle on the Warrior's Path map in the German Tier 10 battle cruiser the Schlieffen, is Drazax. Now, I've covered the Schlieffen numerous times since the ship was introduced, and so I'm not going to go into great detail about what this ship does. But the short version is this. Pretty bad armour, definitely by the standards of other German battleships. Definitely cannot take a concentrated beating and melts like butter if subjected to focus fire. But good guns, in fact very good guns, good range, decent damage, pretty accurate, in fact extremely accurate by the standards of other German battleships like the Frederick the Great and the Grosse Kurfürst. All of the guns have very good firing angles, meaning that you have to expose very little broadside in order to bring them all to bear on a target, and the rear turret in particular has excellent firing arcs and can rotate full 360 degrees. The secondaries are absolutely outstanding, and most Schlieffen captains will tend to go for a secondary build to maximise the amount of damage and the range that the secondaries can fire at. The ship also has torpedoes, but the torpedoes are not going to be important in this battle. And that's it. That's all you really need to know about the Schlieffen. So while we're waiting for things to happen, let's just go over the implications of what this World of Warships replay file security vulnerability means, because Well, I'm sure we all know somebody, at least one person, who tends to spend a lot of time every day looking at World of Warships replay files. Yeah, this guy. So what this basically means in the short term is that I just cannot afford to take the risk of opening any replays that get sent in, because they could literally do anything. And that's just not a risk that I can afford to take, which means that until this vulnerability issue gets fixed, I cannot open any World of Warships replays. So what does that mean for the YouTube channel? Well, it's not a complete disaster, because I do have a number of videos already pre-recorded. They just need commentary added to them. And I should be alright for maybe 2 weeks, but if it takes them longer than 2 weeks, we're going to have to start doing something other than World of Warships around here. Hang on, Jingles, can't you just, publish your own battles? Yeah, the fastest way to kill this channel would be for me to only feature my own replays, because I'm just not that good. And you lot have been spoilt rotten with the cream of the crop of World of Warships battles for the last couple of years. I just wouldn't be able to compete with the best that you guys can offer. I mean, it's not in the same league. It's barely even playing the same sport. So hopefully Wargaming fix this quick, and if not, we'll figure something out. It'll be fine. Anyway, back to the battle. Things have already taken a turn for the worse. The team have just lost their Harugamo, who somehow managed to die to torpedoes from the enemy Shimakaze. And then in the time it took me to tell you that, they've just lost another destroyer, this time the Vampire 2, to the enemy Marceau. Meanwhile, Drazax is busy lining up his strike planes for a depth charge attack on the now confirmed location of an enemy submarine. And yeah, I realise that the idea of battleships or battlecruisers launching airstrikes against submarines may not seem terribly realistic, but in actual fact, the very first submarine to be destroyed by an air attack was knocked out by weapons dropped from the Walrus seaplane launched by HMS Warspite during the Second Battle of Narvik, so it's not entirely without historical precedent. And in the time it took me to tell you that, the team have now lost a third ship as the friendly Napoli dies to torpedoes launched by the enemy Marceau that it just sank. So the team are now down 1 cruiser and 2 destroyers for the cost of only 1 enemy destroyer. Not a great start, especially considering the team, well, they do have 1 cap circle, but so do the enemy, and the enemy are in the process of flipping a second. Drazax gets some shots out against the Montana, who looks like he's managed to avoid almost all of the torpedoes aimed at him, and then his strike plane depth charges finish off that enemy submarine. There's a couple of good hits there on the Montana, but the Ragnar is now also spotted. The Hydro is running, but the Ragnar has already fired his torpedoes against his division mate, Meerkat the Destroyer there in the other Schlieffen. He focuses his secondaries on the Ragnar, and, well, for good measure, he's swinging his main gun batteries around as well. Torpedoes out at the Montana, and then he claims his second kill of the game and his first close quarters expert, eliminating the Ragnar at about exactly the same time that the enemy team managed to take out yet another battleship, this time the friendly Shikishima. The enemy team now have 2 caps and they're ahead on kills and points, at least until the Montana goes down. But Mr. Meerkat Destroyer up there in the other Schlieffen has taken a huge amount of damage and is probably, yep, he's dead too. Finished off by the enemy Minotaur. So, still behind, but with at least 1 cap circle firmly under control and the eastern end of the map at least relatively secure, he starts looking for fresh victims. Unfortunately, so are the enemy team. The enemy Schlieffen takes out the friendly U-2501 with depth charges, and then the enemy Shimakaze scores his second kill by sinking some torpedoes into the friendly Conqueror. Drazax has a great opportunity here to do some huge amounts of damage to the enemy Schlieffen. Unfortunately, while these are accurate guns, that could have been a lot better. On the bright side, while he didn't do much with his first salvo, that Schlieffen appears to be blissfully unaware of the perfect broadside target that he's giving. He's just crawling across the open channel over there, barely even seems to be moving at full speed. And his guns are all pointing the other way, so Drazax swings his arse out in order to get all of his gun turrets firing, and is rewarded with 6,000 damage. Just can't seem to catch a break today, can he? The good news is that the friendly Ohio did manage to sink that Hindenburg, The bad news is that the hire was then finished off by yet another enemy submarine. Drazak's team are down to 4 surviving ships, and the match isn't even 7 minutes old. There's the Minotaur who finished off his division mate, Mr. Meerkat Destroyer in the Schlieffen. He gets some good hits on the Minotaur, including a Citadel, but doesn't finish him off, and then, I'm pretty sure, deliberately runs himself aground in order to start backing up so he doesn't run into any Minotaur torpedoes, because that looked very much like the Minotaur had just launched torpedoes down the mouth of this channel and then was turning around to do the same on the other side. He did get his torpedoes away. They have been spotted by Hydro. But there's no sign of any torpedoes down this side of the island, which is kind of surprising. I'll tell you something else that's surprising. I mean, the Minotaur's gone down, that's good news, but that's not surprising. What is surprising is that looked like a radar Minotaur rather than a smokescreen Minotaur, which is very unusual. I'm pretty sure the Minotaur is the guy who had Drazak's radared earlier as he first nosed around the mouth of this channel. He's beached himself again, because he doesn't want to run into any of those torpedoes. There's definitely at least an enemy submarine and probably an enemy destroyer around the corner there. And he's just focusing his, well, main gun batteries and secondaries on the enemy Conqueror. Hopefully the Conqueror's heel is on cooldown, because he's angled pretty well against armor-piercing shells and the high explosive secondaries. Well, we all know how the Conqueror can basically just print a new ship if all it's sustained is high explosive damage. Good news, bad news. Bad news, he just lost his last surviving division mate, which means there are now only 3 of them left alive on the team against 6 enemies who control 2 of the 3 caps. But good news, the Conqueror is now giving him a nice fat juicy broadside to shoot at, and Captain Gunter Leutchen's secondary battery loader skill just activated after achieving 100 secondary gun battery hits, which means his secondaries are now firing 15% faster. But there is danger lurking on the horizon. There's the enemy Shimakaze, and he's right on top of the U-2501, who has managed to finish off the Conqueror with his torpedoes. Unfortunately for the U-2501, he's now the filling in a double depth charge sandwich between the Shimakaze and the Yamato. He's probably not going to survive that. Drazak starts backing up, gets some torpedoes away, focuses his secondaries on the Shimmer, and the Shimmer's going for him, not the U-2501. He instantly slams the throttle full forward, focuses everything on the Shimmer. Just as the enemy sub pops up at point blank range, the secondaries kill the Shimakaze, but not before the Shimmer was able to get 2 full loads of torpedoes away. His emergency maneuvers meant that he was able to avoid all but 2 of them, and his secondaries have forced the U-2501 to dive, so he dumps even more depth charges on him while unloading his main battery guns against the Schlieffen up ahead, who finds out the hard way, despite the experience of what happened the last 2 times Drazak shot at him, that his broadside is not invulnerable after all. The U-2501 is forced to surface. Drazak's secondaries finish him off at about exactly the same time that the airstrike launched by the enemy Schlieffen that he just sank finds and kills the friendly U-2501. So now it's 2 against 2. Drazak's and the Halland over there against the Republique, and oh shit, the Yamato's still alive. The Republique is not paying him any attention. The Yamato is. So he very wisely focuses absolutely everything on the Yamato. And the Schlieffen's armour is definitely no match for the Yamato's 18-inch guns, unless the Yamato is dumb enough to fire into the Schlieffen's armoured belt, while simultaneously providing a nice big fat juicy broadside for Drazak to return fire on. And of course the enemy Yamato is. I think that's the wreck of the Shimakaze. You know, it seems like ages ago when he sank the Yamato. It was actually only a minute. He's got the Yamato. That just leaves the Republique, who's turning to avoid the Halland's torpedoes, and given another big fat juicy broadside to shoot at. And is probably thinking to himself, how the hell did everything go so wrong so quickly? And that's a good question. Because Drazak has just done 250,000 damage in 4 minutes. Somehow the Republic survives that salvo, but he's hanging on by a fraction of health. And I don't know why the Halland isn't shooting at him. It's possible he might be out of range. I know the Halland's guns don't have the greatest range, but you're in a Halland, chase him down and shoot at him. He was shooting at you. He could clearly see you. You were shooting at him. He clearly was in range. It looks like he's more than 10.4 kilometers away, so yeah. Probably not actually in shooting range anymore. But that's fine, because that means that Drazax gets the opportunity to inflict even more pain with the secondaries and the main gun batteries. Finish off the Republic while the Halland is still trying to torpedo him and claim his 7th and final kill of the game. So just cast your eyes over that post-battle results screen for a minute. Feast on it. Drink it all in. 316,000 damage. 118,000 of it from his secondaries alone. I think he actually ran out of screen space to display all of his achievements there, but don't worry. And nearly 3,000 base experience. One hell of a game. Probably not something you can expect to experience every time you fire at World of Warships, but definitely not the kind of game you're going to forget in a hurry. Drazax, if I had a hat, I would take it off to you, sir. Actually, I do have a hat. I have several hats, but I'm lazy and I can't be bothered to go up and get one, so you can just imagine me doing it. Thoroughly well done, but you should probably go for a bit of a lie down and give your back a rest. And to everybody else, I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm pretty sure most of you probably did, and if you didn't, what's wrong with you? And as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.